All right, let's go ahead and get started with Unit 8 in this particular course. We're going to start with Chapter 1, which is Business Organization. Our objectives for today: I will learn the basic vocabulary of business organizations. I will compute financial responsibility of business ownership based on ratios and percents. Here are the key terms for the unit. Please be sure to review these in your textbook before watching the video. And let's get started. For my first example, it says Michelle invests $15,000 in her partnership that has 4 other partners. The total investment is $240,000. What percent of the business does Michelle own? So here we're looking at a ratio, and we've gone through this quite a bit in different units. A ratio, we're looking here at the part over the whole. Well, Michelle doesn't own the whole business, she owns part of it, so her portion of what she owns, or her investment, goes on top, and the total investment goes on the bottom. Now, whenever I have a fraction, I'm looking at division. So when I put 15,000 into my calculator and then divide by 240,000, I end up with 0.0625. Now, in order to convert that decimal to a percentage, I'm going to multiply it by 100, or simply move the decimal over twice, and I end up with 6.25% is what Michelle owns in this business. Please press pause. Go ahead and solve this. Check your understanding. When you're ready, come back and we'll solve it together. Okay, Kyle invests $20,000 in a partnership that has 5 other partners. The total investment for the partners is $160,000. What percentage of the business is owned by the 5 other partners? So the question is, did you read the question carefully? It's not asking for Kyle's investment, it's asking for the investment of the others. So what we need to do is take the whole investment, and we're going to take out or subtract Kyle's portion. And when we do that, we end up with $140,000 is the investment of all the other 5 partners. Again, I'm looking at the part over the whole. So the part here is the portion that the 5 business owners own, taking Kyle out. That's the $140,000 that we just calculated. The whole investment is $160,000. When I divide there, I end up with 0.875. Again, if I multiply that by 100 or move the decimal over twice, the rest of the partners own 87.5% of this business. All right, example 2. The total number of shares of stock of Bulls Corporation is 650,000. Mike owns 12% of those shares. How many shares does he own? Well, he owns 12%, so as a decimal, that is written as 0.12 of, anytime we're using that word of, we're using multiplication. So we're taking that 12%, converting it to a decimal, which is 0.12, and multiplying it by the 650,000 shares. When we do that in the calculator, we end up with 78,000 shares is what Mike owns. Okay, please press pause, solve this, come back when you're ready, and we'll solve it together. Okay, Jillian owns 60% of the stock in a private catering corporation. There are 1,200 shares for the entire company. How many does Jillian own? So same idea, convert that percentage to a decimal, moving the decimal over twice or dividing by 100, we get 0.60 of the 1,200, and we find that Jillian owns 720 shares. All right, example 3. 3 partners are investing a total of $900,000 to open a garden and landscaping store. Their investments are in the ratio of 2 to 3 to 5. How much does the partner that invested the least contribute? So the one that invested the least is that one that has 2 portions of this corporation. And to find out 2 out of what, we're going to add all of these values together. So we end up with 2 plus 3 plus 5, which equals 10. So in essence, we're saying there's 10 parts to this corporation, and they're delved out in ratios of 2 parts to one partner, 3 parts to another, and 5 to another. So if we take the $900,000 for the investment and we divide it by 10, we find that each share is worth $90,000. Now, remember, it's asking about the least contributor. So the least owned 2 parts of that. So we take 2 times the 90,000, and we find that the smallest partner invested $180,000. Please press pause, go ahead and solve. When you're ready, come back. Okay, so 2 partners are starting a wedding planning business. Total investment is $45,000, and their investment is a ratio of 4 to 5. How much does each contribute? So again, we start by adding all of the ratios together. So there's 9 parts. We take our 45,000 and we divide it by 9, and we end up with 5,000 is what each share is worth. So one earns 4, the other earns 5. So the 4, the person that's in a ratio of 4, I've got 4 times 5,000. They have invested $20,000. Whereas the 5, we take 5 times the 5,000. That person has invested $25,000. And if I add 20 and 25,000 together, I end up with that investment of $45,000. All right, last one. I want you to press pause, take a second, see if you can solve this, and then come back and we'll finish it out. Okay, it says 2 partners invest in a startup business. They need to find another investor for the rest of the money. What percentage of the business will that person own? And write a ratio that represents the investment of the business. Well, I know that the business, when it comes to a whole, is 100%. I know that 2 partners each invested 35%. So if I subtract 35 and then subtract 35 again, I find that that third partner will have 30% of the business. So that answers this first question. They will own 30%. Now it asks us to write a ratio that represents the investments. Well, the first partner owns 35%, second partner owns 35%, and the third partner would own 30%. Now the only thing that we have to remember when we're doing ratios is we do have to reduce that if we can. And 5 will go into each of these values if I divide that in there. So 5 goes into 35 7 times, 5 goes into 35 7 times, and 5 goes into 30 6 times. So the ratio of these 3 owners would be 7 to 7 to 6. And that's it for this chapter. Good job, everyone.